Hi Sam, how are you doing today?
Hi, good. How's it
Awesome.
going?
It's going good. I'm currently
Awesome.
in Berkeley, California, and it's super foggy outside, so
Wow, no way. Do you know I went to college there?
I did. I was just about to talk
Yeah.
about that.
Go Bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So jumping right into it, your character Bruce undergoes a significant culture shock when thrown into the Taipei triad world. So, can you share how you approach portraying the Asian American experience in such a unique context, especially because focusing
Yeah.
on the language barrier and Bruce wanting to pursue improv, I'm sure that must have been really challenging. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's interesting about what you just said is that I felt like it was actually quite easy to because there was a lot of similarities that I saw in my own life compared with Bruce's. I think that just like Bruce, I had wanted to pursue being an actor, right? Being an entertainer. At the time, I was doing comedy. I was doing comedy videos and improv and I also was under the supervision of my mom that was not a huge fan of what I was doing. There was a lot of uncertainty. So in a lot of ways, it was quite easy because I felt like I got the chance to draw a lot from my own experience. But I definitely feel like the moment that Bruce gets tossed into that, gangster underworld, um, that I felt like was also made easy by my castmates, right? By just how awesome the production team was, the costume department, all of these different departments that made the set feel like real life. It brought all of these pieces to life, and I was just able to be absorbed into it. And I think that was really special because I know that a lot of times when you're acting in a lot of modern projects, there's a huge use of green screen, there's a huge use of CGI, and I think I hear stories of people always acting with like you know puppets or like green screen suits, and stuff like that. And I felt like I was very lucky to be able to experience a set that was as rich as this one because we shot on location for so many things, and so it was really easy for me to kind of step into that world in that sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. And as someone that was raised in Southern California, how did your own background and experience influence the portrayal of Bruce's struggles?
Yeah, well, I feel like when you grow up in Southern California, it's like wanting to be an entertainer, wanting to be an actor. It's like it's in your hometown, it's the hometown story. It's just right there. So I've always felt like even growing up in Southern California, I've wanted to be an actor and acting in Hollywood felt so close to me. So I think it kind of gave me the courage to want to go out and pursue it. And I think in the same way, uh, Bruce is kind of doing the same, right? He's growing up in Southern California and he references going to groundlings classes where there's the best, Rachel Dratch, Will Ferrell are alums from groundlings, so he's referencing things that is in his hometown as well.
Yeah, no, totally. I went to school in Southern California, so I was relating to a lot of like his experiences on campus and everything like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That was
exactly.
really nice to see too. But
Yeah.
also speaking of the show, Bruce is super into cars. So are you much of a car guy?
Yeah, I would say so. I think maybe grew out of it a little bit now, but I mean, Lamborghini Aventador, Pacifique Purple, like
So is that your dream car?
woo! Maybe one day. A funny story actually is I was never once able to actually drive those cars.
No way.
Yeah, yeah. Due to legal reasons, I was not allowed to. I was able to sit in it. The car was allowed to be on while I was sitting in it,
Yeah.
but I was never physically able to drive it for
Oh,
legal reasons. So
that's so terrible. I feel like if it's on set, then might as well just take a little
I
spin.
know, such a tease.
So
Yeah.
the show kind of delves into the complexities of like family secrets and Bruce's discovery of his family's connections. So can you share how Bruce's journey resonated with you personally and like if there are any specific aspects of the character that you found particularly challenging or very rewarding?
Yeah, well, it's not so much there were aspects of the character that was challenging, but I do feel like because I think Bruce and I have so much in common. But I will say though that because of the nature of film, right? Because of the nature of the on-set experience, when you're filming a scene where you are like, distraught, or there's a scene where you're panicking or going through a sort of life or death, fight or flight feelings. The thing with filmmaking is you don't really get to just do it once, like in real life. You have to do it again and then again and then again and then great. Let's take a 45-minute break where we could change the camera angles and let's do it again and again and again. So it's very exhausting in that way. And I think that was probably what was more challenging is because so much of what Bruce is going through in the show is him experiencing these like otherworldly sort of emotions of like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, or like, oh my God, like always panicking. He's always
Yeah.
getting thrown into these crazy situations. I think in a lot of ways, like that was a struggle to always kind of be in it and to constantly be on edge, in that sense. So that was pretty tiring, as you can imagine, having to pull that emotion out for 8 to 10 hours a day was there were moments where I was like, oh wow, that is acting is a little more difficult than I thought.
That's hilarious. So I feel like the concept of having to choose between your family and your passion is like such an Asian American experience. And you spoke a little bit
Yeah.
about how your mom might have thought that like you pursuing acting was a little bit difficult as well.
Yeah.
So with Bruce setting to be a doctor but wanting to pursue improv in secret, can you talk a
Hmm.
little bit about how you relate to Bruce in that way?
Oh wow. I mean, I feel like I relate to Bruce in so many ways because of that. I I think just like Bruce, you have to be rebellious. You have to go out and get what you want in this world. And I've been a big advocate for just chasing your damn dreams, doing things that that's right for you, right? You're not living this life for someone else. You're living this life for yourself. And I've always been very stubborn in that way, in my thinking. Personally, even personally, to the point where, with my own personal relationship with my parents, I've been very stubborn about wanting to pursue acting, wanting to pursue what I do. And I think, you have to give them credit. Like they're not there to try to hurt you too. They're not there to bring you down. Your parents just want the best for you. But the thing is, a lot of times I feel like, especially in our culture, they just want what's best for you, but at the same time, they don't realize like that this is our lives, right? This is our life. It's not necessarily theirs. And I think Bruce is the exact same way. I think he's also very stubborn, and he gets to a point where like obviously he loves his mom and he's listens to his mom, but there will be times where Bruce is very stubborn in his thinking, outside of even what he wants to do career wise. But later on in the show, he's very stubborn about how he goes about doing what's right for the family.
Yeah, no, totally, totally well said. I related a lot to that, just also being Asian American. So, like, seeing it
Yeah,
on screen and seeing that, like, how even when he was being stubborn, doing things in secret, it felt like it was in kind of like micro doses. So,
yeah.
it's like, yes, he was being rebellious, but he was still going to class. And, like, yes, he was doing
Yeah,
this one thing, but he was still stubborn that I'm going to do it my way. So,
it's a fine line.
yeah, it is. You're kind of like treading. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be very Asian today. I'm gonna be very American today. So
Yeah, yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like this was like the perfect portrayal of that. So amazing job. I thought it was so well done.
Oh,
Um,
thank
and
you.
then going a little bit more into the characters. So I know Bruce and Charles have a very different background. So can you talk a little bit about what that dynamic between these two brothers who like come up from very contrasting worlds, trying to understand, trying to connect with each other, especially after so long?
Yeah, I think that's what the show's all about is that brotherhood, and that family dynamic. And I feel like what's so lovely about the show and how our characters change is, you know, throughout the season, Charles is so cold and he has his guard up all the time. But over the course of time, through Bruce's own stubbornness, he kind of, lets his guard down and gets a chance to be a little bit more fragile for someone who's so against it, right? And I think in the same way, Bruce gets to feed off of Charles's energy and be a little bit more I wouldn't say the word stubborn, but I would say he's, to be more decisive, right? To do what's right and to be more bold and confident in his choices. And I think that's what's so cool about the dynamic throughout the season is you get to see them kind of feed off each other and their energies sort of swap a little bit. And I feel like that's what makes this show so cool and gives this show so much room to explore further relationships down the line. I can imagine it gets really some crazy stuff could go down, I think, in potential future
Yeah,
seasons.
I know. I'm excited to see if there's a season two, how that's gonna play out because I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like just the way the show ended, it's like, okay, now I need more. I want to know
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
coming
yeah.
next. Yeah.
Plot is thickening.
Yeah. And so you also got to work with Oscar-winning actress Michelle Yeoh, who played your mother. And that just must have been the most incredible experience. So can you share what it was like being able to work with her and any valuable lessons that you learned just working alongside her?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many. Like, okay, first of all, I mean, you can imagine how starstruck anyone would have been, but especially me, like how starstruck I was the first day I got to be on set with her. And this is somebody who for me, I'm categorizing Everything Everywhere All at Once as like one of my favorite films of all time.
Me too. It's top five.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just so
so
good.
good. It's so good. So I was just blown away when I got to work with her for the first time. And Michelle is someone who's really busy. She's really busy and she has a lot going on. I think she might have been, on tour on press tours for Everything Everywhere at the time. So I didn't necessarily have a lot of time to get to like hang out with her or bond with her the same way I did with the other castmates because we had more time together. Although we still got the chance to grab a few lunches, grab a few dinners here and there. So I feel like I was very nervous that first day, especially because we just had to casually pretend like we had known each other for like the last 22 years.
Yeah, like that's your mom. Like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But there's something about Michelle's presence that is so inviting. She's so warm with her energy and very maternal in a lot of ways. I feel like everybody that she meets feels like they're they're her children. Like she just has that kind of instinct. She has that maternal instinct. So it was very easy to get to work with her in that way. But I also felt like drawing from my own experience of having a single mom, I think those two things worked hand in hand in instantly building that chemistry between me and Michelle. But Michelle is a superstar. She is, I think there are so many things I've learned from her, both on and off set, both in front of the camera, but also behind the camera. She's so charming. She's so wonderful. And I aspired to be as effortless as she is. I think she's so incredible. Like going back to what I was saying earlier about how intense some of those scenes are, right? How stressful some of those scenes are. Like I felt like I was so locked in. For me, this is like a quite a new experience. So I'm trying my best to just be as authentic as possible. So like if there's a big emotional scene, I'm in the corner and I'm like, nobody talk to me. I need to act like this is the end of the world. Like I need to just like be in my corner and feel vulnerable and get in tune. And then Michelle will be like in the corner hanging out with the directors, the producers, cracking jokes. And then they're like, all right, Michelle, we're ready for you. And she's like, okay, goes on front of the camera and just has like a single tear come down her face. I'm just like, where did that come from? Like that took me like 45 minutes in a dark corner listening to Joji to get to. But she was able to just like pull it out. So I think that veteran experience really showed. And I was like, wow, it's just it's mind blowing to see in person.
Yeah, that's great to hear that she's the same on and off screen. Like, I mean, I'm sure everyone already knows it because she just seems like she's the most wonderful person ever. So
She really is.
you're so lucky that you got to spend so much intimate time with her. But I already got to watch the show, which I can just say that I absolutely loved. It was a
Oh, nice.
perfect blend of like action, drama, comedy, and then
Yeah.
adding in a little bit of that family dynamic. So I'm really
Mhm.
excited to see how everyone else is going to respond to it, how they're going to see themselves in the characters. So, how did
Yeah.
you find the balance between all these genres while playing Bruce? And what aspects of his character kind of challenge you the most in terms of genre while you were going through the filming process?
Yeah, that's a great question because actually, having those conversations with our awesome director Kevin Tancharoen, and Byron Wu, our showrunner, we had those conversations about tone, about the genre, I guess, but it's a genre bending show in a lot of ways. So those conversations were very interesting because it's like we didn't ever want to lose anything, and the moments that are funny, we really wanted to make sure it was funny, but the moments that are also sentimental, we wanted to make sure it was there. But I think that's where our director and our showrunner was so good with their foresight, with their experience, because they were able to really help me as an actor, not only give me the flexibility and freedom to make my choices and bring Bruce to life, but also to really guide me in that way. I think when something comes off a little bit too punchy, right? If I read something off the script and I'm like, this is a hilarious joke, maybe there, and I feel like I'm reading it a certain way and I perform it in a certain way because I feel like it's a punchline. They were really good at maybe toning it, just pulling back a little bit and saying, hey, maybe it's better if we played it like it wasn't a joke, right? And so I felt like that's where the showrunners and the creative team behind the camera really stepped in and helped guide me through that process.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we know that the series is going to premiere on Netflix on January 4th, soon
Yeah.
2024. So, as an actor, how do you hope that Brother Sun contributes to the representation of Asian American stories in the entertainment industry? And what message do you hope the viewers at home will take away from the show?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to pay homage to all of the previous, Asian American shows that came before us. I think that really helped pave the way for a show like ours to be greenlit and for us to be here. But I think in the same way, this is a celebration of authentic storytelling. This is a celebration of our culture, of our people. And so I hope that, the show's a success and people love it. And not only that, but, the show, I think, transcends racial boundaries, right? I think this show is something that every family and the world can see. I think there's a lot of dynamics within the family. There's a lot of lessons there that every family can learn from. So I hope that people see it as that, and that it just paves the way for more shows like this to be made in the future. um, but I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Oh, the second part was just what are you hoping that like viewers are going to take away, which you kind of answered, but
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I think the last thing is, you know, yes and is a huge part of Bruce's life, right?
yeah,
And yes and is an improv term. It's a term to sort of go with the flow, right? You want to keep bouncing off of each other. And I think in a lot of ways when I tackled Bruce, when I tackled this character, yes and was essential for me. It was essential for bringing Bruce to life, but also it's a great lifestyle. It's a great way to live life, and I think Bruce really does a great job of just going with the flow and saying yes to everything and finding a way to make bold decisions. So for me, I think that also viewers, walk away from this show wanting to yes and more things in their life and to
yeah.
be bold and be decisive in their decisions.
That's awesome. Well, it was such a pleasure speaking with you. I loved the show.
Yeah.
I loved your character. I'm super excited for everyone to see it. So, is there
Oh,
anything
thank you so
else that
much.
you wanted to kind of add just before we kind of close off the interview?
No,
Okay,
yeah,
great. Okay, great. Well, I'm
awesome.
wishing you all the best. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I hope you have a
Thank you
great rest
so
of your
much. All right, thank you, Serena. All
yeah.
right, take care.
Bye.